The other key thing is, though, Paul, and I'm glad you said pandemic. So pandemic, yeah, means an epidemic, but in multiple countries. It's pan. It's like many countries have it. Whereas if it's just one country that's getting it bad, it's an epidemic locally. But interestingly, in 2007 and 8, with the help of the top people from the pharmaceutical industry, the WHO changed the definition of pandemic. So up to 2008, just before the swine flu, a pandemic or an epidemic had to cause massive impact in mortality and morbidity, like you said, but not after 2008. They took out that clause. Now it only had to be really very widespread new virus. It no longer had to be a big impact. You can imagine the difference that makes. That means much easier to have a pandemic, much easier to switch on enormous billions of dollars into drug manufacture. So there's a little bit of chicanery there, to be honest. So that's pandemic. And I think people don't realize, and I've been putting this out, World Health Organization are leading all of this, clearly. And in 2019, they refreshed their pandemic guidelines. These are really important, a 100-page document. And notably in there, in the middle, social distancing measures. On contact tracing, they add up all the evidence and they do not recommend contact tracing once a virus pandemic has broadly come into a country. It's too late. The horse has bolted. By the time you track someone, the virus is over the horizon. They know that. So they do not recommend tracking tracing once the virus is out and about. Maybe if you're an island nation and it's hardly come in and you could catch a few people before it gets out, but not. So they recommend against it. And quarantine of exposed individuals, not recommended, because they know it has minimal impact on the course of the epidemic or pandemic. And that's quarantine of exposed individuals, specific individuals. But they don't even address locking down the whole of society, because in late 19, that is too absurd to even write in their document. I mean, who would do that? That's so stupid. So you don't even talk about it. So that's the actual WHO guidelines, and we can't get censored for this because this is their guidelines. So I think in 20, something went badly wrong in February, and all of the science of pandemics was thrown on a pile and someone put a match to it. And we decided we'd copy China instead. That'd be a good idea. So just to get to what you were asking for, I've forgotten. Oh, Sweden. Yeah, here's Sweden, guys. So here's Sweden in the green, deaths per million shape. And they might have a slightly elongated shape because they had no lockdown. And here's Ireland, and they had data problems here, so they dumped a load in here. But they're effectively the same performance if you account for the age profile in prior seasons. And now Ireland happened to be quite low for Europe in mortality. We're hardly affected. And Sweden are the best in Europe for mortality by a mile, pretty much now. So to your point, yes, they followed the WHO guidelines and they would appear to be reaping the rewards. But I did say that there were pictures. Here's a CNN team. This is not fake news. Have the video. May the 6th, right in their epidemic. Okay. And there's the lady getting her haircut. Very nice lady chatting away to the reporters. Schools up to 16-year-olds in the epidemic, all attending, and people going about their business. Here's cafes, and they kind of had arm's length in the cafe, guys. Wash your hands, and if you're symptomatic, stay at home. If you can work from home, we'd like you to do that. But this is Sweden in the epidemic. You want to see Sweden now, right through the summer and right out to here? Okay, you want to see them? Here, my Swedish people sent me these photos. This is it. This is in late September. All of Europe was locking down again in a hysteria, and this is Sweden. No masks. They don't really allow masks. And the epidemic management team, they go by the guidelines. They say masks have no evidence worthy of the name, so we do not recommend. They may have harms. And here's two more pictures. Here's public transport in October in Sweden. No masks. You can see there the guys. This is reality, guys. This is reality. What can I say? So the published analyses, 15 of them or more, demonstrate that lockdown achieves little impact, if any, on mortality. And they're real analysis of real data. They're not modeling. They're not these modeling and predictions of horror. This is real data. This is real science. And Sweden, when accounting for demographics, performed essentially the same as Ireland. And we're in full country lockdown with the exact same scenario as Sweden are now experiencing. And they are almost doing nothing. Same result. Oh, last one. You asked about the deaths per million. People talk about 1918 flu. If I personally caught someone talking about 1980 flu, I deal with them. That was a once in a century phenomenon that's being referred to. It bears no relation whatsoever to these or any of the flu epidemics since the 60s. There were multiple pathogens involved. Fauci has published on this in 2008. And the second wave that hit them, from the data and publications, almost certainly a different virus, either a different influenza or another type virus from the 1870s. So here's the Spanish flu spike. You can see the mortality in the month in Sweden back in 1918. This one was cholera, by the way, back in the 1800s. Where's the corona spike with no lockdown and no masks? It's here. Notice something? It's like Ireland. You can't tell it apart from mortality in prior years. That's a fact.